Okay, cool. We're recording. How to connect the Blue Room? Oh yeah, awesome. Great question. So if you go um, to the dashboard, I'll just do it starting from the dashboard. If you go to the dashboard, click on, and it should be here. It's called Blue. So if you click on that, um, that'll take you to the Blue Room. And then there's an option, I think, like somewhere along here or at the top. It says Join Room. You want to click on that to join the room. And then the next thing you want to do is deploy it, obviously, but you also want to actually download the OVPN file. So to do that, you want to go to tryhackme.com/access, I believe. Yep. And then you basically want to select the VPN server that's like closest to you. Since I'm in Gainesville, US East Regular 1 is close to one to me. You want to download the configuration file, and then it's going to download a .ovpn extension file. Then you want to go to your terminal, and then you want to type this command in the terminal. I'll scroll up here. This command, sudo openvpn, and the name of your whatever .ovpn file that you just downloaded. Mine is going to be my username .ovpn. Yours is obviously going to be your username .ovpn. Once you run that, you'll see a bunch of output here, and you just want to keep this running in the background throughout the entire challenge. So just don't close this terminal, don't add anything, just open up a new tab, and that's where you do all your work.
Are we gonna have to connect like this every single time we do like a Try Hack Me box? Or get onto the Try Hack Me website?
Yep. So you don't have to re-download every time. If you already have it downloaded, then you're good to go for like the remaining future. You just have to run this command anytime you want to start hacking on it. It's just this command here, because that'll connect you to their private network, which has all of the vulnerable boxes, which you can then start hacking. Because they can't host these things on the public internet, because then people can start messing with it and stuff. Okay, so let's go back to our room. Blue here. And I think we got the IP. Yep, the IP is this. And it expires in an hour. If I need more time than that, I can just add time to it, which is pretty handy. But I'm going to go ahead and copy this IP. And then the first thing it says is to scan the machine. And again, they even have like super simple like hints. Even if you're unsure how to do this, you can check out another room called Nmap. But basically, that gives you a hint. We want to Nmap scan the IP. So we're just going to do Nmap. And then the flags I always use is -S_C -S_V. And then I want to output it so I can like reference it later. So I'll just call it blue.nmap for the output file. And then we're just going to paste the IP that we're trying to scan. We're going to run that. That can take, a minute or two. But yeah, that shouldn't take too long. So we can just basically just say completed here, because we're basically scanning it. It's about to be done. Then it's going to ask us, it's kind of nice because it like, unlike with Hack the Box, you basically just, you have to your goal is just get 2 flags, the user flag and the root flag. And that's it. With Try Hack Me, what's kind of nice is that it kind of walks you through each of the steps by asking you specific questions about what you're finding. So the next question is how many ports are open with port number under 1000. So once it's finishes, we'll be able to answer that. So we'll just have to let that run. It's about halfway. And if you guys are having issues like maybe connecting to Try Hack Me with the OpenVPN file or anything like that, I guess you can let me know now, since I'm just waiting for this thing to finish. But if you also just want to wait to try it out yourself on the Icebox, that works too. You don't have to follow along for this part, but you can if you want.
You said you found. I'm sorry. I
Oh yeah, no worries.
Questions, but like you said, you found blue on the dashboard page, but mine is only the getting started modules. So do I have to like complete those so I can actually see?
No, you shouldn't have to. If you click on Hacktivities here on the left, and then maybe just search for blue, it should show up. And yeah, if that works for you, yeah. I didn't realize that you had to complete like some beginner stuff to see it in the dashboard, but yeah, you can just do that here. Let's see. Almost done. Okay, so it just finished. So let's make this more full screen. So for those who've never seen an Nmap like output scan before, it's basically showing all the open ports, what service it was able to identify running on those ports, and what version, if it can determine what version is running for that service. So we can see here like 135, 139, 445. These are all very standard ports you'll see open on most Windows machines. So let's see here. We got 445 is SMB, which actually is pretty important for this box because as the hint in the name suggests, it's called Blue, which is referencing a very popular vulnerability called Eternal Blue that was released back in 2017. It was leaked off because it was a vulnerability found by the NSA that they were keeping to basically gain access to any Windows machine they wanted to. But that got leaked into the public internet, and it was called Eternal Blue, and it was basically a remote code execution vulnerability in SMB version 1. What was the website to visit to get? Oh yeah, so it was tryhackme.com/access, and you just want to download the configuration file and make sure the VPN server is in the region that's closest to you, which for most of us I think is going to be US East regular 1. But you download that, it should give you a .ovpn file. Then once you download that, you want to run this command. Scroll up here, this command, and then replace this with your OVPN file, which is the one you downloaded. And then you should see a bunch of output. Make sure to keep that running at all times during the hacking, and just open up a new tab to do everything else you need to do. Awesome. All right, so like I said, 445 is SMB. NSA found a remote code execution vulnerability in SMB version 1 that was leaked back in 2017. And so now we can look at this output here. We can determine a couple things. Let's actually answer the first question it says. Let's go back to our room. Blue. Okay. So the first question was, how many ports are open with a port number under 1,000? So the answer to that is going to be 3, 135, 139, 445. So we'll just go ahead and throw that in there. Boom. What is this machine vulnerable to? So this is answer in this form. So like I was saying before, the name of the room gives it away quite a bit. We can also check the Nmap scan here to see sort of what it has found. So you can see it's doing some versioning information. Windows 7 Professional is it's determined the Windows, the version of Windows that we're hacking into, which is Windows 7 Professional. It determines the computer's name, the work group, the NetBIOS name, a bunch of stuff here. And so given the hint by just by the name of the box, we can determine what this is going to be. So if we were to look up here, it even says right here, Eternal Blue cybersecurity. So if we were to look up Eternal Blue, let's just say CVE to look up the, or it's not a CVE number. Let's just look up Eternal Blue and see what we get. Wikipedia is pretty accurate, I would say, for the most part. Let's see if we can find, because we're looking for something with the format MS. So this is like MS0867, but starting with MS is what we want to look for. Let's see if we can find it here. Let's do a Control F for MS, see if they can. Here it is. So Microsoft issued a security bulletin called MS17010. So Microsoft Security Bulletin is similar to a CVE. For those who don't know what CVE is, it's like a vulnerability that was found in a software that was then reported and fixed, and so then it was assigned basically an ID that identifies that vulnerability in that specific software. And Microsoft does a similar thing with the security bulletin, and it starts with the format for it is MS, and then I'm guessing this is the year that it was found, 2017, and then this is probably just like a numeric value assigned specifically for that. So Eternal Blue was assigned this one, MS17010. So we're going to go ahead and type that in here, MS17010. There we go, got it right. So we've completed this task. Now let's move on to the gain access. So we'll exploit the machine and gain a foothold. So first we're going to do this by starting Metasploit. So we're going to go to our terminal here. And to start Metasploit, we're going to type msf console. And this is going to start up the Metasploit framework so that we can use it. And there we go, just like that. So that's been completed. Cool. So now find the exploitation code we will run against the machine. What is the full path of the code? So now what we want to do is basically find the exploit for Eternal Blue. So something that you could do is you could search directly the MS identifier, or you can just probably search for Eternal Blue and it probably will show something. Let's see. I spelled that. Oh, I spelled that right. Okay. All right, cool. So I found some stuff. So, and here it is. Exploit Windows SMB MS17010 Eternal Blue. There's a Windows 8 version as well, but we already found out from the Nmap scan that it's running Windows 7. So we don't want that exploit. We want this one. So this would be the full path to the exploit. So we're going to go ahead and copy that and throw that into the answer for this question. Awesome. Got that right. So show options and set one required value. What is the name of this value? So now we're going to go ahead and set that exploit. So we're going to type use and then the path to the exploit. And you notice here our little precursor here changes. So now we're going to do show options like it says. And then we have some options here. And the question was show options and set the one required value. What is the name of this value? So we can see here there's the list of like the values that we need to set and if they're required or not. So the ones that say no, 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 we don't really care about. How do you know which exploit to use? Great question. So essentially, it was a couple things, right? So I'll open up a new tab here. If we look at the Nmap scan, we know it's running SMB. We know it's a Windows 7 version, so it's a fairly old version of Windows. And we can see in the scripts here that it's, let me see. So the main thing I looked at here was basically that knowing that it obviously has 445 open SMB, and that it's running an old version of Windows. And then that coupled with just the name of the box called Blue. And also, if you look at the graphic here in Recon, it literally says it's Eternal Blue. So if you were to Google Eternal Blue, you'll get like this Wikipedia page, which basically tells you like it's a cyber attack exploit. So we know that this is the exploit that we want to use. So all I did from there was basically go back to MSF console, and I did just a search for Eternal Blue, and it came up with some options here. Auxiliary, we don't, because all the ones that start with auxiliary are just like scanning ones. They don't actually do any exploitation, so we don't really care about that. That's another auxiliary. These ones are exploit ones. We don't want to do the Windows 8 one here, like it says here, because we found out in the Nmap scan that it's Windows 7, so not Windows 8. So we don't want to use that exploit. And then this one here does not have Eternal Blue in it. It's another MS17 one. That's something different. And then this one again does not have Eternal Blue in it. So we were looking for the ones that had Eternal Blue in the name of it, which is going to narrow it down to this one. So this is how we knew this was the exploit that we wanted to use.
If you searched Eternal Blue, then why did those other three options even show up if they don't have Eternal Blue in them? Great
question. So if we were to set, so there's like for each of these like modules, there's a more descriptive, I guess, description within each one, and inside those descriptions, it'll have the word Eternal Blue inside of it. These are just the ones that have it directly in the name of the exploit. And so that's why these are the ones that we care about, because these are ones that are the most straightforward MS17 Eternal Blue exploit. These other ones are related to Eternal Blue, but not directly in such a way like these ones are. And so this is one that we want to use. That's a great question. Yeah, it's just that if we were to like look into this module, we would find like a deeper description that had the word Eternal Blue in it. You can even see here it's getting cut off. I bet that says Eternal Blue. Same for this one. So that's why. But yeah. So let's go back to showing options here. So again, we don't care about the required ones. Only ones that say yes are the ones that we care about. Our port is going to be the target port that we're trying to attack. It's default set to 445, which is perfect because we're attacking 445 on the remote machine according to our nmap scan. Yes, thank you, Ben. Remember to set the lhost variable metasploit to VPN IP, otherwise your exploit temp won't work. That's a great point. And I'll get into that in just a second here. So again, some more default stuff that we don't care about. And then we have this one here, however, is required, but it's empty. So this rhost is going to be the IP of the machine that we're trying to hack into. So to set that value, we're going to do set rhosts, and then the IP, which in my case is going to be this guy here. So I'm going to copy that, paste it, hit enter. It sets it. If we go back to show options now, we're going to see it's now updated with the value we just set. So that's all good. And so it says in the question, it asks us, show options and set the one required value. What is the name of this value? I'm going to go ahead and guess it's going to be rhosts. So that was the one that wasn't set. Awesome. So now it's telling us to run the exploit, but we don't want to do that just yet. The one thing that we have to set correctly is the lhost. So the lhost is going to find some default value, but it's going to be wrong because it doesn't know that we're actually on a VPN connected to this box. So it's going to grab your local IP within like maybe you're inside your house. It's going to grab that IP. We want to grab the IP for the VPN box. And so to do that, we can just type IP space A. And then you might get a bunch of output. You might get like very little output. I got a bunch here. But the one we care about is one that starts with 10. So 10.6.25.4. We don't care about any of these because they're related to other network interfaces that is not connected to the VPN. This is the only one here that's actually connected to the VPN. So this is the only one that we want to set our lhost for. So this is going to be my IP for it. So I'm going to copy that. I'm going to do set lhost. And then I'm going to paste that. Now I'm going to go back to show options. And you can see it's been updated right there. On the L port, you can keep the same unless you have some service running on that port, which almost no one ever does. But yeah, so now we have all the things set properly like we want to. And this just says run the exploit. So to run it, you just type run. And then it's going to attacking the exploit, showing some verbose output. Sometimes with this specific exploit, it can take a couple tries, but sometimes it'll work the first time, sometimes it will not. So let's see how many tries this one takes. How do you hit the VPN IP again? Great. If you go to your question, IP space A, and then it's going to be the one that starts with 10. I know it's a lot of output to sort of like read through. You kind of want to look for just a 10 dot and then whatever your numbers are going to be. That's still running. But yeah, that's where you want to check it. And for those who want to like dig in deep into what this exploit is doing and what SMB is vulnerable to, this version SMB is vulnerable to, it's essentially vulnerable to buffer overflow. But this article here goes really in depth into it. So I'm going to copy that and put that in the chat. If people want to read that later, it really digs in deep into what actually the exploit is doing, which is definitely good to know. How do you see the VPN? If I have to start that with 10, is the VPN the one with tune? Yes, the VPN will most likely be the one with tune 0. So it'll be whatever that IP is associated with.
Please make sure your VPN is working correctly before you attempt to do this. UF's IP space is also in the 10 network, so if your VPN is not running, you'll launch an attack against UF's network instead. I really don't want to have to fill out the paperwork for this tomorrow.
Yeah, thanks, Ben. But yeah, if you have two 10 dot IPs, it's going to be either the one that's probably the one that's all the way at the very bottom, the lowest one, or the one that has tune 0 in it. But it's almost guaranteed to be the IP that's like second, the last one in the list. is going to be the IP that you want to
If
use.
you don't have a 10.0 interface, your VPN is not working correctly. You should only have the 10.0 should be the only 10 space IP on your box.
That is correct. Okay, great. So actually my exploit worked. We can see by this prompt here that we got an interpreter session. So just to test that, I can do, I think, ls, just to list files. And boom, these are a list of the files inside of the system32 directory within the remote Windows machine. So we just successfully exploited that vulnerability and got access to that remote machine. So we potentially just hacked this box, right? So let's go back to try hack me here and say, run the exploit, completed. Confirm that the exploit has run correctly. You may have to press enter for .shell to appear. Background the shell. If this failed, you may have to reboot it. So we got a shell, so we're all good there. So we've successfully gained access, as they said. So now we're going to go to escalate. So right now we have, if I go to here, if I do maybe, can I do who am I here? No, I'll have to drop into a shell. So drop into a shell. So now I'm in like a CMD shell on the Windows environment. So now if I run who am I, we can see I'm already NT authority system. Okay, I thought it would be a lower privileged user. Okay, well, that's handy. Let's background that process. Now let's just move on to escalate and see what they got. So escalate privileges, learn how to upgrade shells in Metasploit. If you haven't already, background the previously gained shell using Control-Z. So we'll go ahead and do that. Control-Z, background it. So now I can view the sessions by just doing sessions, and we can see our session here. Research online how to convert a shell to interpreter shell in Metasploit. What is the name of the post module we will use? Okay, so I guess they were expecting us to not use a interpreter shell already. They're expecting us to use a generic shell because we already have an interpreter shell. But we can still answer that question. What is the name of the post module you use? It's going to be, I believe, use post. Let's see if I can remember this. Would it be Windows? Let's see what options. Oh, that's a lot of options. Windows gather. Let's do a search for post and then interpreter. That's a lot of options. Way too many. What does the shell do? Okay, awesome, great question. So in Metasploit, there's a few different types of like reverse shells that they have options for. They have a generic one, which basically like when it connects back to you, it basically just gives you a CMD shell on the remote computer. So anything you could do like in a normal CMD on your Windows environment, you can do through that as well. But that's kind of limiting, right? Because you can only do a certain number of things. But then they also have something called the interpreter shell. So that's what it's called here. It's a interpreter shell. And what this does, it basically gives you a whole bunch of more features to gain more information about the box. You can do everything from like start recording the mic if there's a mic connected to the remote Windows machine, take a screenshot of the remote Windows machine, start recording the screen, a whole bunch of stuff, like look at the webcam if there's a webcam connected. It gives you so many more options. So the generic shell is nice. It just gives you a nice little CMD. But interpreter is really what you want because you can do just so much more stuff with it. Awesome. Gabe found it. So it's post multi-managed shell to interpreter. So we'll go ahead and throw that into our answer here. And so in the case, if we had initially gotten a generic shell in the beginning instead of an interpreter one, we would want to use this module to upgrade our generic shell into a interpreter shell. But since we sort of skipped that step and went right to interpreter, so we didn't have to do this part. Saying select this module use module path, show options. What are options we require to change? We can actually go ahead and use this. So we'll just check it out. We don't have to actually run it because we already have an interpreter shell, but we can still do it to answer the questions. So show options, saying what option are required to change. I'm going to go ahead, start and explain. The session one is what we want to change. That's the only one that's as required and has not been set. So we're going to go ahead and put session here in all caps. Awesome. Set the required option. You may need to list all the sessions to find a target. So again, if we had a generic shell here, we run the sessions command to view all the sets we currently have. We use the ID, which is going to be 1, and then we would set the session here to 1. So we do something like set session and then 1. And then if we go show options again, it'll show here that we set the session to 1, which is the session that we want to upgrade to an interpreter shell. So we did that, completed, and then run this. If it doesn't work, try explaining from it. So we don't have to run this because, like I said before, we already have a interpreter shell. But if you had a generic one, you'd run it, and then you'd now have an interpreter shell. So we're going to go ahead and complete it on that. Once the interpreter shell conversion complete, select that session for use. We've already done that. And then verify that we have escalated to NT30 system, run get system to confirm this. So we already know that we are NT30 system if we run sessions and the information that tells us right here. But we'll go ahead and jump into that session to really confirm it. So we're going to do sessions and then -I, and then we're going to specify the session that we want to jump into. So ID of 1, hit enter, and we're back in our interpreter shell. If we run help here, we can see this is what I'm talking about with all the features that an interpreter shell has as opposed to a generic shell. So we can see here, user interface, send keystrokes. We can even type on their screen. We can send mouse events. We can do a screen share, screenshot of their desktop. We can record their mic. We can start a video chat. We can list their webcams, take a snapshot from the specified webcam, play a video stream. We can basically watch whoever's connected to that box, a whole bunch of cool stuff. So that's why like an interpreter shell is really what you want because it just has so much stuff. You can even play an audio file on their remote machine if you want to like freak them out or something. But yeah, you can do so many things with this. So they want us to run get system to confirm this. So we're going to go ahead and run get system, which is one of the commands here. You see, attempt to elevate your privileges to that of local system. I'm going to run that. And it got system via name pipe impersonation. So we got system. And it says, feel free to run a dash shell or the shell command, run who am I. I already did that, but I'll do it again. So shell. So now we're dropping into a CMD shell. So now it's like we had a CMD window, similar to a generic shell. So now we can't do a whole, if I type help, like we have, I don't know, whatever output cmd.exe gives us, it's like nothing much. So now we can run who am I. And we already know this, but we are NT authority system. So we are good to complete that one. So let's Control Z to get back to our interpreter shell. Cool. So list of all processes running via the PS command. Just because we're a system doesn't mean a process is. Find a process towards the bottom of the list that is running NT30 and write down the process ID. Okay, so we're going to do PS to list all processes currently running on the machine. We have quite a few here. And then it tells us to find a process towards the bottom of the list that is running NT30 and write down the process ID far left column. So this is going to be this guy here. So we're going to pick, I don't know, maybe con host. Let's try con host. So 2428. We're going to, what's in the system and process. So I'm not quite sure what you mean by system. So a process is basically like any, I guess you could say any executables that are running on the remote machine. So we can see here like SVC host. These are a lot of like executables that are by default running on most Windows machine. But if this person was running like was opening up Notepad or calculator.exe, we would see it here in this list of processes because that would be a process that's running. So that's what this list is. It's just a list of currently open executables that are running on the machine. So that's what that means, if that answers your question. Okay, so
wait, so then what was? Oh, sorry.
No, yeah, go ahead.
The question, it was like hang on, I'm trying to find it on my computer real quick.
Mm.
Just because we are system doesn't mean our process is. What does that mean? That's what brought on my question.
Okay, yeah. So essentially what that means is that the process that we so when you run get system here, let me go back to the help here. So get system, attempt to elevate your privileges to that of local system. And if I scroll up when I ran that command, if I can still find it, let's see if I still have it here. Get system. So got system via technique 1. So get system command uses a few techniques to try to elevate its privileges to admin. And the first one it tried worked, which is name piped impersonation. And that's sort of that would be like a separate lecture. You can really go in depth with that. But essentially, what that's doing is it's basically gonna create inject into a process that's let me see the easiest way I can describe this. It's going to create a name pipe process that then the user on the remote machine, the victim machine, is going to connect to essentially, and then we can run whatever code or executables we want to run. We can send to the name pipe, and it will run as the user that connects to that pipe. However, and what it means when it says in here is that just because system doesn't mean what our process is, means that the name pipe that we created doesn't mean it's necessarily running as the NT authority system. It could have been connected back through a lower level user. If there was one, if there was a user on the victim machine called, I don't know, Bob, and he had like super like low privileges, that could have been the user that was connecting back in the name pipe. And in that case, the process that we elevated privileges with would not be one that is actually a system process. It was just a low level user process. And I know that's kind of confusing. And that's sort of the whole section you get into, but essentially that's basically what it means is that we escalate our privileges using a process, and that process may or may not be a system, may not have elevated privileges essentially. And so we're actually going to try to then move to a process that does have a higher level privilege. Although it's entirely possible that the process we're in right now is already at the highest, but I think they want us to do it just to practice. And that's essentially what we're doing when we're trying to find one here. And we're trying to look for one that has running by the user NT authority system, which in this case is most of them, unless besides these ones. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Okay, so find a process towards the bottom list as running as NT authority and write down the process ID. So we said SVC host, so I'm going to do 2560. I'll remember that. So completed. Migrate to this process using the migrate process ID command, where the process ID is the one you just wrote down in the previous step. This may take several steps. Migrating process is not very stable. This fails, you may need to rerun the conversion process or reboot the machine and start once again. Okay, so now we're going to try to migrate to one of these processes, which is basically essentially moving the executable that we're currently having the shell on into another executable or into another process. So we're going to do that by just doing migrate, and then I'm not sure, SVC host might not work, but we're going to give it a shot anyway and see what happens. I have a feeling it might not work, but we'll see. Oh, okay, awesome, it worked. So let's see. So yeah, so now you can see here we've migrated 2560, just like that. So completed. And I guess, okay, if it worked for SVC host, it probably work for most of these. So if you guys probably choose any one of these processes and use their PID and migrate into that, and you should be fine. But if you're having issues, just let me know. Okay, so let's go to cracking now. Dump the non-default user's passwords and crack it. So great, so now we have shell access, but this might not last forever. What we really want, I guess, is passwords. So then we can maybe use passwords in a future time to get access whenever we want, and we don't have to run the exploit every single time to get access. So let's try to find some passwords. So within our elevated interpreter shell, run the command #dump. This will dump all the passwords in the machine, as long as we have the correct privileges to do so. What is the name of the non-default user? Okay, so, oh, my shell died. Oh no. Okay, so we'll go ahead and run the exploit again. MS17 eternal blue. So the exploit sent. Okay, we'll run that again. That might take another minute. I guess this box is a little buggy, probably because it's not running on super fast hardware, since I'm just spinning up in like an hour. So it's possible that it just drops occasionally. So we'll let this run again. Let's see. So I guess, well, okay, so the #dump command. So for those who don't know what a hash is basically like an encrypted version of your password. because you don't want your password on your computer being stored in plain text, because that's just bad security practice. So it's actually going to store the hash of your password. So it's going to encrypt your password and store that encryption instead. And what we're going to do now is grab those encrypted hashes, and we're going to try to crack them. We're going to basically try to figure out what the plain text password is of those hashes were. That's essentially what we're going to be doing in this next part once I get my shell back.
What was the command you did to do the exploit? It was use exploit something else.
Yeah, it was use exploit /windows/smb/ms17_010_eternal blue. Yeah, just this guy here. But if you also just do a search, like in interpreter for like or in MSF console, do a search for eternal blue. This is one of the ones that should show up as well.
All right, thanks.
Yeah. All right, we got about 25 minutes left in the box. We should have plenty of time to finish, so we don't have to extend any of the time here. Okay, looks like we got a session opened. Awesome. All right, so we're back. Let's just do sysinfo. Okay, cool. We're back. Let me run get system again, just to confirm that we're back. Awesome. And now actually, I'm realizing now that the possibility why our shell died is it would happen after we migrated to SVC host. And I think the reason why you don't want to migrate to SVC host is because it's constantly getting like restarted, like stopped and restarted again. So it's likely that that process just got killed by Windows and then restarted again, which means our session died. So we're going to stay on the session that we currently have because I don't want to risk sending it to another place and then our shell dying again. So I'm just going to keep it where we are. So now we're going to run hash dump like it says. And we can actually do a help and look for hash dump. So hash dump dumps the contents of the SAM database. The SAM database in Windows stores the hashes of all of all the users that have logged into all the user accounts on that Windows box. So that's what we're doing here by doing hash dump. And boom, that was super quick. So now we have the username. This is like I believe it's the RID in Windows. It's essentially like the UID version in Linux, but it's basically like your specific ID for that user. And then after that colon is going to be the hash here. That you can see here, as you can see there. So now that we have those, this dump all passwords on the machine as long as we have the correct user. So what is the name of the non-default user? I'm going to guess it's going to be John. Jon. All right, awesome. So copy this password hash to a file and research how to crack it. What is the correct password? So we're going to copy John's hash here. I'll just copy the entire thing. So grab this, copy, go to another terminal here, and we're going to go ahead and just store that in a file called hashes. Cool. So now we have this hash here, which we're going to try to crack. So this looks to me like an NTLM hash. And the reason it looks like that to me is because 99% of the time, Windows stores their passwords in NTLM format, or the hash algorithm it's using is NTLM hash. And then also by the fact that if you notice here, the first part of each of these hashes are exactly the same. And then the part that differs is this part. And this is the part where the actual password is stored. And this is just another feature related to NTLM hashing. You can look into NTLM hashing. It's a whole different thing. We won't get into that, but all we have to know for now is that this is NTLM hash. And we might actually be able to identify it if we go to something I like to look up. It's called like hash identifier. And then it's hash analyzer by Tunnels Up. And you give it the hash that you're looking to find the type it's for, and it'll tell you what type it is. So we'll just copy this and see what we get back. Should tell us, but we already know it's NTLM, but yep, NTLM. Now Try Hack Me told us research how to crack it. What is the cracked password? So a couple lectures ago, I went over a tool called Hashcat and John the Ripper, and those are used specifically for cracking passwords. So that's exactly what we're going to do here. So we are going to use, I'm going to go ahead and use Hashcat because that's my preferred choice. Let's look at the help page, and let's we want to look for the hash type NTLM. So I'm going to do a grep for NTLM. Okay, NTLM is 1000. So we're going to do hashcat -m and then 1000 for the hash type, -a0 for attack brute force mode, and then I hope I remember, is it -w to specify the word list? We're going to user share word list rocky.txt, which for those who don't know, rocky.txt is it's a word list, probably the most popular word list for passwords out there. It just contains a list of the most popular passwords that people use. So I use it all the time for cracking passwords and stuff like that. And then I think we just do hashes. No. So it's not -w. Let's see if we can find it here. Does it tell us how to use it? Okay. Word list. I don't know how to specify. Oh wait, word list. Username. -- word list equals. Thank you, Gabe. So -- word list equals. Will this work? Does not allow an argument. Oh, maybe I have to specify something else here to specify the actual hash. Options hash. Oh, okay, do we have to do that? Do we need a flag for the word list? A flag for the word list. Oh, are you saying like in the hashcat command? I think. Oh, that's for John. Okay. Last time we did, we just paste the word list from the directory. That's entirely possible. Let me actually just Google it, because you know what? Google is actually going to know the answers here. So hashcat NTLM crack. Yeah, let's see. See what we can get here. We can find a hashcat command. Makes our lives a lot easier. Okay, hashcat-m. Oh, right, because hashcat had its own word list, or did it? Let's try this and see what happens. So -a0, and then we're going to do provide hashes. Notify. Oh, I have to do -- This doesn't work, then we'll give John a shot, because maybe John actually might know how to do it better.
John works.
John works? Okay, so if this doesn't work, then we'll give it a shot in John. And is the format just NT?
Yes.
Okay.
Just the format is NT.
Did it take you long, or is it pretty quick?
It ran in like 5 seconds.
Oh, okay. This one, okay, this one's so, okay. So we're going to do John then. John -- format is NT. Is it -- word list, I guess, equals /user share word list rocku hashes, and then let's go back here. Unknown subject format name. Oh, okay, we have to.
NT is capital.
Oh, actually, I think the issue might be I didn't specify the username in there. John, I think, wants the entire thing. So let's go back here. Oh, I did specify the entire thing. All right, then I'll try it NT capitalized. Unknown ciphertext format name requested. Is this a command you ran, Ben?
Give me a second, I'll check. Looks right.
Looks right for me too. John S's format, that's just word list. Yeah, that's looks like a what does your hash file look like? Is it just because I think mine's right. Let me vim hashes.
Wait, do you have the? It's possible your version of John doesn't understand the NT format.
Wow, that would suck.
You.
Oh, let me do John dash the Ripper, and I'll give that a shot.
No, just do that.
Let me try this real quick.
Or that works too.
Oh. No, it's just file like user share wordless rocket. All right, I'll try to use it. John dash S list formats. Yeah, it's John the Ripper. So it's definitely loaded this. No, it says f open user share wordless rocky.txt no such file directory. I wonder why it's saying that.
You might need to run it as root.
That's a fair point, actually. Yep. Permission denied. It's definitely there, right? Wordless, Rocky. Yep, it's there.
Wait, you didn't try the list equals formats when you did John the Ripper.
Yeah, you're right. Let's give that a shot. Dash list formats. Okay, and let's look for.
No, NT should be in there.
It's there.
Is your hashes file open in another tab?
No, it is not.
Okay.
So if I try to run a sudo, it tells me permission denied on okay, let's just do a little bit of unsafe stuff, but come on, who cares? Now let's try it. No, still permission denied. What on earth? And I just try it without sudo. It tells me it can't open.
Yeah, I don't know why this isn't working for you.
Yeah.
It runs perfectly fine in Kali.
That's so weird. Can I do rainbow tables on NTLM hashes?
I don't know, maybe.
Let's try it, because maybe I can just, I don't have to do anything myself. I can just, all right, not this. I don't care about this. Let's try this guy. If I can,
you can always just have some.
Sorry?
You can always just have someone else who has this working share their screen, and then they can see it there.
Unrecognized hash format. Yeah, I'll do that if this does not work. Okay, let's try this. Nope. And then one more time. Let's try that. Nope. Okay. Yeah, if someone else has theirs working, if you want to share your screen and just show the cracking process and the command you used, I feel like it should be this, but it's just not working for me for some reason. Does anyone want to share their screen? Just for like a quick second?
I can do it, but I have to clear the John. I have to clear the results of John, otherwise it'll just say it's already done. Do you know how to do that?
You might have to delete the hash file and just recreate it.
Hang on, I can probably just do this.
I'll stop sharing, so I'll let you share.
Just 2. You need to grant me the permission to do that.
Oh, I'll just make you a co-host. Can you do it now?
Yes.
Cool.
All right. So if you're on an instance of Kali, the Rocky word list is compressed by default. So what you have to do before you can run John correctly is you actually have to go and decompress. So you can do that by just doing gzip-d user share word lists rocku tar.gz. I've already done this, or .gz, or it'll be something like that. I've already done this, so my directory listing is different. So as long as you've got rocku.txt, you can run John format with that, and then your file name, hit enter, and it still won't. You'll get output in a little bit that'll give you what the hashes are. Unfortunately, it'll look like this. This is what it looks like. Unfortunately, I don't know how to clear the results of a previous run of John, so I can't duplicate it, but this is what your results should look like.
Awesome. So the password was ALQ, or you want to just put it in the chat?
Yeah, I will. Just give me a sec.
Cool. Now I'll go back to sharing my screen. Okay. Awesome. All right. So through cracking, we found that, we'll just create some passwords, that this was the password for John. So let's go ahead and throw that into answer here. And there we go. We cracked the password. So now let's go on to the last section, which is find flags. We have 13 minutes left. Let's see if we can do this. Flag 1, only submit the flag content. So now I'm assuming that there's going to be flags on the remote box that we have a shell in. So let's drop into a normal shell here, a CMD shell. Let's cd into
Two of them are relatively easy to find.
Okay, cool. Let's go into John first here. I always check the desktop first. There. Let's check their documents. Open cd into documents. All right, we got flag 3. So let's cat that out. There we go. Basically just looking around the file system for flags. So let's grab that one. And so I guess the easiest way to do this is actually just to Windows CMD search for file.
For the flag, it just wants the stuff in curly braces, nothing else.
Oh, it does? Oh, you're right. Thank you. So that stuff. Cool. So yeah, now we're going to do we're going to go to the root directory here. And we're going to do a dir/s, which is going to do a search for anything with the word flag in the file name. And look at that. We found flag 1 already and flag 2. Awesome. So that's going to take a while. I'm going to background that. Back to shell here. So now we're going to do more on flag 2, which is in C:/Windows/system 32/config/flag 2.txt. Boom. Flag 2 is gotten. Throw that in there. And then flag 3, or flag 1, sorry, is just in the C drive. Oh, cool. So if we there, awesome, more flag 1.txt. And for people who don't know, more is just like the cat command in Linux. What command do we run to log in as John? So we're actually not logged in as John. We're actually the NT authority system. So we basically have like essentially root sort of permissions, similar to like root like on Linux, but the root version for that for Windows. So we can access any user's directories and folders. So we don't have to log in as John. If you wanted to, I think RDP was running on it. So you might be able to RDP into the machine as John.
You can.
Awesome. So we'll actually do that. Let's just give that a shot. So let me submit the last flag here. And great, we finished the box. Awesome.
What was the flag for for number 2 on the escalate section?
Flag for number 2 on the escalate section. Oh, it's session in all caps.
Thank you.
So yeah, let's try to log in as John then. So if we go back to our Nmap scan here, or what do I call it? Blue diamond. RDP is running. 3389 is RDP. Nmap kind of messed up with the service here, but we know 3389 is RDP. It's the common port used for RDP. So I'll try to do that then. Let's see. I have RDP here. Okay, what's it called? KRDC. And then theoretically that should work. So RDP, and then the box.
As always, our desktop.
That too. Yep. So do that, and then I'll just try to connect to it. I don't know what that is. Let's hit enter. Okay, cool. And username John. Password is this guy here. Copy that. Paste. Okay. And look at that. We have it. Activate Windows now. Ask me later. Okay, there. And look at that. We are now RDP'd into the remote machine as John, just like that. Oh, okay. I'll just get out of here now. But yeah. So if there's any questions about like this box or anything I went through in this box, let me know now. Because if not, we're gonna get started on. I'm gonna let you guys work on the room called ICE. So I'll show it to you here. If you go to Hacktivities here, and you just do a search in the search bar for ICE, it's gonna be this guy here, this with the Windows logo with the frost over it. It's a beginner box similar to Blue, and it walks you through the similar steps just like the other one have. I won't. My answers are shown there, so I don't want to show that to you, but. Yeah, go ahead and get started on that box. Remember, you have to join the room and then deploy it to get started on it, and then make sure you guys connect to the download the OVPN file and connect to it so you guys can actually work on the box. And I'll be here to answer any questions, or if you guys are having any issues, I'll be here to answer them. But yeah, go ahead and get started on that, and I will stop sharing. Any reason someone would use Hashcat over John? So the main difference, as far as I understand, is Hashcat uses GPUs and then John uses CPUs, or it's the other way around. It basically just differs in the implement, like what it's using to crack hashes, what it's putting the server load on, and so it all depends on basically what your computer's running. If your computer has a really good GPU, then you're going to want to use whatever tool uses GPU. And actually, I'll look that up actually, just so I know. Hashcat versus John. Okay, yeah, so Hashcat uses GPU, and then John uses CPU. So if you have like a really good GPU, I recommend using Hashcat. But if not, then John's probably the way to go because it only uses your CPU. So yeah, that's probably the way to go if you don't have a really good GPU. But yeah,
if you're on the CISE vCenter instance, you're going to need to use John because we do not have GPUs on your VMs.